Hello, 7th graders. And tonight we're going to look at lesson 3-1 on rounding and estimating. In tonight's lesson, we have two main objectives. First, you will be able to round decimals. And secondly, you will be able to estimate sums and differences. And then we have our warm-up here, and it says use a number 27 and 3,865 10,000ths. Write the value of the given digit. So for example, number 1, they give us the 2. So you have to take a look up there and see what place is a 2 in. We'll do this one together. The 2, well, this is a 1s, this is a 10s. So the 2 is in the 10s place. We have 2 10s, which makes 20. Go ahead and take a few seconds and do the rest of these. Go ahead and do numbers 2, 3, and 4. And when you're done, come back and check your answer. Go ahead and pause me now. All right, so we're going to take a look at number 2 then. The 3 in this case is right after the decimal, and that is in the tenths place. Number 3, the 8, well, that's right after the tenths, so that's the hundredths. And finally, we have for number 4, the digit 6, and that, well, is in the thousandths. So you spell thousand, and then the TH at the end to tell you it's the thousandths. All right. So up at the top, I have a question, and when do we estimate? And usually people have, well, pretty similar reasons. One, you're going shopping, and you want to know about how much it would cost. That's the time we estimate, because you want to make sure you have enough money. That's a big reason people use to estimate. Now, before we get moving in today's lesson, I have at the bottom really a blank chart that we're going to put in the place values. All right, and you can do this along with me. First, we have the tens, all right? Then we have the ones, or the units. Then we have the decimal, which really means and. So whenever we come to the decimal, we say and. So 3 and 2 tenths. So this is a tenths place. This is the hundredths. This is a thousandths. And this is the 10,000ths. There we go. So we're going to use this in the first part of today's lesson because we talk about rounding. And when we round, remember it's to whatever digit they tell us to. So here we're going to round to the nearest tenth for A. All right, so we need to go ahead and write down this number. I have 8 and 7,398 10,000ths. Well, if you go back to that chart we just did, the tenth spot is where the 7 is because it's right after the decimal. That's a tenths. In order to round, you look to the digit to the left. All right, so we look at the number after the one we underlined. So in this case, the one right after the 7 is a 3. And here you have to decide, would I keep this number the 7? Is it small enough? Or would I round it up to an 8? Well, with the number being a 3 here, we'd round down. If it's 4 or less, you round down. 5 or bigger, you round up. So you go up to the next number. So here, we know we have 8 point something. We just need the 10 spot. Well, again, the number after the 7 was a 3. So it stays a 7. It'd be 8 and 7 tenths. Now we look at B. Again, we have 8 and 7,398. And we round this time to the nearest integer. Inter means the nearest whole. So we look at the whole number in the 1 spot, which is the 8. So I want you to do this one. Remember, look at the digit after the one we underlined. So in this case, look in the 10th spot and decide, would that stay a 7? Because this is a number after it, my 7 here. Should it stay a 7? Or should I move it up to an 8? You need to decide. So go ahead and do that now, and when you're done, check your answer. So if you were to look at this one, well, the number right after the 8 is a 7. Well, that is 5 or bigger, so it tells me I'd round up. So instead of 8, I now have a 9. That would be my answer. All right, so now we have these ones. Round each number to the underlined place. Again, I'll do A with you, then you're you need to do B, C, and D. We have 38 and 41 hundredths. We need to round to the tenths place. So again, look to the number after. This digit is a 1, so that means it stays the same. So we have 38 and 4 tenths. All right, go ahead and do B, C, and D. All right, let's check and see how you did. Now B, we're doing to the nearest 1 spot. So again, I look at the number after it. It's a 7. Because it is a 7, I round up. Here I'd have 1. C, oh, it's in the 10th spot. I look to the number after it. It's always the number after, and it's a 6. Again, that's 5 or bigger, so I round up. So now I have 7,098 and 6 tenths, because I rounded that 5 up to a 6. And then I have D, I have 5 and 25 thousandths. Well, my zero's underlined. I look at the 2, that's right after it. 2 or less, it stays the same. So I leave it as 5.0. So that's the first piece of your lesson today. So now we're going to look at estimating sums and differences. All right, and these ones are a little strange. You have to determine if each calculation is reasonable. So for A, they give you $115.67. They say, oh, that's about $120. Then they say $83.21 is about $80. And then $59.98 is about $60. So if you take a look at this one, you'd have to decide, is this reasonable? Is this what they really should have rounded each number to? All right, on this one, they rounded just up $1. Here they rounded down over $3, and here they rounded up about $5. So if you take a look, on this one, it seems like they're close. All right, here I would say that's a pretty close estimate. However, did they round each number to really what they should have? That would be a no. Because they should have rounded to the nearest whole dollar. They should have done $116. This one I would have said $83. And this one I would have said $60. So they could have been even closer. They would have had $259 if they rounded to the nearest whole dollar. So again, it could have been closer. So no, I wouldn't say that's reasonable. Here they give us this one. They say, well, $176.48 is about $180, and then they're subtracting $39.34. And they rounded that to 40. All right, so decide, do you think that's close? Go ahead and answer that, and when you're done, see if you're right. So on B, we had to determine if $137.14 is close enough to 140. And again, they are pretty close. So on these ones, it's kind of hard to say, oh, no, that wasn't close enough, or this one was. But honestly, it could have been closer. Because again, you could have rounded this up, well, to 176, since it's not quite 177. And then this one should have been rounded to $39. And then if you subtract it, you should have had 137. So no, really it wasn't close enough because this was over a $3 difference. All right, and then finally here we get to estimate by rounding. When you estimate by rounding, really you can round to the nearest whole number. All right, so we're going to try to make each one of these a whole number. So for A, we have 355 and 302 thousandths. Well, I need to decide, should I keep it 355 or move it up to 356? And again, you could look at the number in the 10th spot. Well, it's a 3. Well, 3 or 4 or less, I round down. So I'm going to leave that as 355. Then I have plus 204 and 889 thousandths. Again, I look at the number in the 10th spot. It's an 8. Well, because it's an 8, that is closer to 205. And you add. So you get 560. Your answer is about 560. All right, do the same thing with B. Round it to the nearest whole digit, and then when you're done, come back and check your answer. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so if we were to do B, again, I look at the 10th spot. I should round this to 454, because again, that 5 or greater, you go up. And then here we have 230 and 7 hundredths. Well, right after the 0 is another 0. So you would round down. And I subtract them. 4 minus 0, 4, 2, 2. So you get an answer of 224. All right. So what we've been looking at are just different ways to estimate. One, you just round it to the nearest whole digit. And what we have here is called front-end estimation. And this is really when you add the front-end digits. So you add the whole number. All right, so front-end digits means the whole. So not the decimal piece. Add together the whole numbers and then round the remaining digits to find its sum. So here we have $2.71, or 2 and 71 hundredths, 1 and 73 hundredths, and 1 and 10 hundredths. What we do with front-end estimation is add the numbers before the decimal. So I have 2 plus 1, which is 4. All right? And then we look at the rest of this. And again, when you do these, you could round to the nearest whole. So 71 hundredths, well, that's close to 1. 73 hundredths is close to 1. Well, 10 hundredths is closer to 0. So we say here we have 1 plus 0, that's 2. So we have generally about $2 extra, or 2 extra wholes there. So 4 plus 2 is 6. So our answer is about 6. And you might have noticed that I keep putting these squiggly lines before, because this means about. When you have the squiggly lines, it means about, while this means equal. So when we talk about estimating, you should do the squiggly lines before your answer. So here we have one where they want you to use front-end estimation. You are buying some fruit. The bananas cost $1.32. The apples cost $2.19, and the avocados cost $1.63. Use front-end estimation to estimate the total cost of the fruit. So again, I know you know how to add decimals, but here they want us to estimate using front-end estimation. So add together those whole numbers and then round the back end. Go ahead and set this one up and try to do it. And if you can't quite get it, or when you are all done, come back and check your answer and we'll see what we can do. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so with front-end estimation, I have $1.32 for bananas, $2.19 for apples, and then avocados are $1.63. So add the front end together, so the whole numbers, and I get 1, 2, and 1. Well, that's 4. That's $4. Then I look at the back end. 32 cents, well, that's closer to 0. 19 cents is definitely closer to 0. 63 cents is closer to $1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. And at the end, you add those two estimates together and get about $5. So you have approximately $5 in fruit. All right, so that's one way. So right now we talked about just rounding to the nearest whole. We talked about front-end estimation. And the final one is when we do clustering. And you use this when numbers are very close to the same amount. This is when you estimate the sum of several numbers by using the same value for each one. So again, you only use clustering if the numbers are very close to each other. So for example, number 4 here. Estimate the total electricity charge. March costed $81.75. April was $79.56. May was $80.89. If you take a look, they're all generally, if you go down a little bit here, this is about 80. If you go up a teeny bit, this is about 80. And May, well, this is just above $80. So because they are all so close to the same value, I'm going to use 80 for all of them. So if I estimate the cost, 80 plus 80 plus 80 is 100. Whoa, no it's not. $240, excuse me. There we go. So we have about $240 because 80 plus 80 is $160, and then 80 more is $240. All right, so that's your lesson tonight. We talked about how you round numbers. So we rounded decimals. Then we estimated by either rounding to the nearest whole number. We used front-end estimation, and we also used clustering. I hope you have a good night. See you tomorrow.